Yes.
And do we want to do a roll call?
Let's do a roll call.
So we're gonna have to get started. Roll call.
Joe Thompson.
Nancy Roof,
David Roth. Jim Roth.
and then we want to approve the minutes.
Yeah.
And I just gave him a couple typographical on that, but I'm fine with them.
Yeah, I approve that. It said Nancy just pointed out a couple typographical errors, but nothing of consequence to discuss, so. I approved this from last meeting.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
And I added this to the agenda for everybody else that's here, that tonight we're gonna try having public comments to be open at the end of the meeting, but maybe we'll call on you as we go through. But we're desperate to get some business done. So that's the reason for that. So we wanted to do an update then on Paul Oberdorfer's interview. And Frank was just here, and I think we're cemented for Wednesday at 4.
4 o'clock. At the city building.
At the city building, in the city manager's office. And Frank is gonna be there.
Frank will be in the meeting.
Yeah, that was good news.
Yeah, and I heard him say he wants you to send him an email, just solidify things after you got here. You guys had a chance to talk. So, make sure you do that, he locks it in, because I don't want excuses for why it couldn't happen.
Did he say how long we would have?
We didn't talk about it, but I'm assuming it's an hour.
Yeah.
That's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. We did it next Wednesday, so it wouldn't interfere with our meeting.
No, that's fine, I was
Thursday.
just gonna write down the date.
Yeah.
So I guess, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on the interview.
Trying to find that.
I know, I do.
Yeah.
But we've got approximately more than 300 questions at this point, I think. And so, obviously, we're only gonna be in the interview for an hour. I figure the most questions we can get in is about 20 to 30, probably closer to the 20.
Probably, put that in. Depends on what answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to
I like women,
call that down.
got a knife?
So I guess the big question is, what do we want out of this interview?
What do we wanna know?
We probably have enough questions covering a variety of different topics.
Yeah, I don't really think we need more questions. And it's not a waste. Some of these questions can be used for interviews with other people.
Yeah.
Like I said, some for, I don't know, BGSU, the fire chief here, I mean, a lot of them overlap with other people, so it'll be good to have all those questions, but in the meantime, what is it that we want to know?
What's our focus?
I've got 9 things that I think that we want to know, and then we can plug questions in under those, but you can add, you can subtract. Is it just some way to get this organized?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll go through the preliminaries and what's your, when did you come here? What's your position? The basics, and then what was it?
I wouldn't spend too much time on that.
No.
Tons of this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have these in the right order either.
Well, yeah, this was your one.
That's for him. No,
I
You did that too, okay.
I didn't type that up yet, I'm trying to remember who did.
this is what
Is that my
I
list?
told you I'd give you.
I think that's yours.
That's my list.
Okay, gotcha. Not that I wanna be confused, I'm sure.
No, that's my list of questions.
Okay,
And,
all right.
like I said, whatever.
Is this for him? This is your topic,
No, that's yours, that's for you.
and this is from.
Oh, you already showed me.
Okay.
So this one question is too long. I need to condense it, but what was his role as city manager? As it relates to firefighter training, battery burning, contracts, leases, 911 calls, complaints, flow, running the whole shebang. So what was his role as city manager really during that time period? That's what we're driving at. And then how much did he know? When did he know it? Was he complicit in the operation? Was he part of a carpet? And I'm not gonna ask that question, but that's what we wanna know, and then there'll be questions under that we use to figure it out. I should have made copies for you guys.
So you have bold as the objective. that you're
That's
trying
the
to-
objective, not a question. And I don't think, Jim, you have to write all this down unless you just.
No, I'm not, I'm trying to figure out where I put it at.
And then what was his relationship with the various players? And so we'll get at that with some questions. And do these relationships continue to this day? How did the city of Piqua benefit monetarily? What was the grand scheme?
Did you send those out, Nancy?
I didn't.
Oh, you did, okay.
It just, no, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Will you send
Because
those out?
it's still just draft, because I haven't seen David's questions yet,
Okay,
so
well,
we'll still have to work those in. What did he do to mitigate the situation once he knew about it? And then, probably, that woman up there.
you want a copy of this?
I'll go ahead if you done perfect, if you don't.
I guarantee you
But
a
then-
copy of your something.
If you don't mind.
It's not a done deal, but
Okay, that's okay.
It just helps follow along.
Yeah, I guess.
but it was a very short hospital.
Okay, well, so far, he's just making a copy of the question. So if we discuss it, right here, right now, anybody take notes on it.
Okay, well,
I wish we could do this.
I sent Frank another email this afternoon about it. Hi.
About the recording,
yes.
are those now going to be posted?
I didn't ask for that.
I don't even know if any of the recordings from the last, all the meetings we've had previously
So if this is
are
Zoom,
saved.
this is Zoom?
I don't even
Is it
think,
Zoom?
this is not even Zoom. It's Microsoft something.
They said they were using Zoom, the first two?
I think all the meetings prior were Zoom, or Teams, not Zoom Teams.
But it
But,
is voice activated, or it senses where you are, so that explains some moving around.
So since who's watching?
Yeah, that's what I wanna know, is who's logged in?
Yeah, who's watching? And like if this is not available to the public, I just wanna know why it's being recorded and who's watching. Because I think the whole town would love to watch,
no, I agree.
you know, and if they have a link for this, why can't they share that prior to the meeting?
The objective was to have all of our meetings.
Right. And they're not doing that, so I just wanted to know if.
Well, maybe Thomas knows,
She-
Mr. Hellman.
Frank sent an email apparently, or I did,
Maybe this
I
person
see,
knows.
that's original.
I would say one of the commissioners would have to know.
saying that we can either record using
Because
this.
I just think if whoever's watching wants to watch, come on down
I just
or
want
watch
to,
it all
I just want to
this
catch you up here.
way. Okay.
We were given the option of using this or using our own phone. And so the lady that works here got this set up. I gave her my address, or email address, and David's.
So she'll send the video.
Supposedly we'll get, but then how do we share? Is the question.
Sounds reasonable.
But how do we share?
You could take the link and post the links there.
Yeah.
And then people could download the link and put it on their own.
But where's that magic somewhere?
Michelle Perry.
Well, then it's right up the.
No, like for me, if you were to send me a link, okay, this is separate from you guys, but for me. If I receive it right, I'll download the video and I'll put it up on YouTube.
Oh, shoot, did I give you that?
Yeah, I got, yeah, that one,
Oh, yeah, okay, never mind.
that's the short one, right? Yeah, that one right there.
Okay, so are we done with that talk?
Yeah, I just kind of like to know who's watching, but we still don't know.
I don't know if
We're
anybody
gonna get that
else.
figured out.
Okay.
At least it's on. I mean,
She turned it on.
We've got a $10,000 television.
I don't think anybody doesn't, I mean, when we advise it, so that, you know, people, no one's trying to hide what's going on in here.
The live streaming has been great because it's a nice way to.
People can change.
Typically, everyone knows who's on a Zoom meeting. That's, I mean, that's being correct and
Yeah.
ethical.
But I don't know. if
I
this is-
don't, this is just a camera app, and I think it's just recording a video. So it must be safe.
I don't know where the lady went that brought it up, but it looked like she just opened the camera out.
It just is recording.
Still Zoom.
So wherever the computer is for this video, I'm guessing will be saved on that computer.
The first
We'll have more
couple meetings.
upload it.
It says if people Zoom, we have to.
Because it's,
Used to do it, and then the city pick was accounts.
I think what he was saying was the recording wasn't working on it the way that was anticipated, and that's why they're using the camera app now.
Right, cause I think they probably were chatting, and they probably don't wanna share the recording of the chat.
Well, the Zoom was just weird because I don't know if you
When
can
she was-
save Zoom calls.
When she was setting it up, she was moving around the room and it was following her.
Would anyone be opposed if I brought up an actual tripod and camera
I don't care.
and record it?
But legally, you can do it. Under.
As
Well,
long
I know I
Yeah,
can,
no,
I'm just being polite.
No, you're right.
as long as it's not
Under the
invasive.
sunshine law.
People are.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's a lot of people in the community that be like, hey, what's going on? We'd like to see him, I'm still at work, I don't, you know, and
And you're more than welcome.
And I'm straying from the agenda,
Yeah, so we're,
but Tom, when you were here last time, you mentioned had any of us gotten the training on the sunshine laws? I looked that up today and apparently you have to get recommended or
Yeah, and
permission.
that's what I had mentioned to you, is that, if you needed to get recommended to talk to your liaison so that the city could get you through that.
Okay,
And then if you guys had any other advisors, maybe they could help you with that too. I was, the county board of elections recommended me, I got into it, I don't really know how that process works on the back end. But yeah, you're right that you have to have like an invite link to it, I don't know who gives that to you.
okay, we'll check with Frank then. It's just, it's a 3-hour training.
Yeah,
It's very basic.
well, it's basically, it's thorough, and it gives you like I said, it's a much better grounding than like the 3 minutes that you did get from Mr. Patrice.
Okay, so we're back to talking about the focus that we want to have from what do we want to know from all. Are there,
so you were going over,
so I was going over the bullet ones.
so are you gonna recommend that they do it for the ones that wanna do it, or?
I have to talk.
I am making no recommendations to them whatsoever. They've asked me a question, I told them what I would do if I was in their position, but I'm not advising you to do anything.
No, I was just
Yeah,
wondering, how do I get permission?
Yeah.
Your answer is
Not
talk
to
to
be
Frank.
rude, why are you here?
I think I've made that very clear that I'm.
Is it personal
Yeah.
curiosity? Okay,
Yeah,
I just
I'm as
was wondering.
concerned as everyone else is, I know
Okay, good.
some people that have just thought that I'm not, but I am very curious what's going on, that's why I'm here.
Okay, so now we're talking about what do we want to know
interview.
from,
So yeah, I've sent you my list of questions, I mean, you guys will be on the interview, whatever you feel is pertinent, that you wanna ask. Feel free
and
to
you had
say what
a
want,
great set of
tell me what you
questions.
don't want,
And
and,
it's just a matter of, and I wanted to make sure that everybody got some questions in here.
sure,
So some of yours are in here.
no, that's fair, so yeah, I mean,
But what are the general things we want to know from Paul? Why are we interviewing him? Anybody?
Like everybody else has asked, I wanna know what he knew, when he knew it. How familiar was he with the operation when he came in as city manager? I wanna know kind of the organizational chart out there at the fire burn center, who's in charge and who's second in charge, and It seems to me everything Patrizio was organizing, he was getting permits, he was doing stuff. Did we have people moving stuff around? I mean, did we have a team that was assigned to that place?
So that comes
I
down
wanna
to
know
organization
kind
chart.
You know, how was that set up? And then, I also wanna know, you know, that's related to the burn, right? Part of this committee's job is to do a recommendation about what happened, how it can be better. So I wanna ask him, my recommendation would be every time somebody's out there using that facility, there's a city of Piqua employee out there. Personally, I would like to see it as an off-duty firefighter. They can sign up with a list for times when they're going to burn, you can sign up to do that and get paid to be out there, and you're a firefighter and you're watching what's happening, you're monitoring on an hourly basis the wind speeds and whatever else, and so, because that sure wasn't happening. And whoever burning is gonna pay for that individual. We come here, we rent this place, there's somebody here. You got rules, you said you can't do what you can't do, and there's somebody here to tell you you can't do that. Last reunion was in here, we couldn't bring beer up from downstairs, you know. We had to go down there, buy a drink, and so, good controls here, we should have better controls out there. So I wanna know, what's the city policy for the fire department right now for, time off? Can they have a second job? What's, you know, could they do that? Could we set that up? How would that work? What are his thoughts on that? As city manager, he just went through a whole violation with the EPA, got his hand slapped, and just had to go through that whole process, that whole dialogue. I would think he's fresh off of that. He would have some ideas and solutions and thoughts about what we should try to get enacted to be better.
So you're talking about the future.
I'm talking about recommendations, yeah, and how we
So
can
that
be
could be
better.
a 10th focus here.
Yeah, because I would tell you, you know, if a restaurant gets violations for health codes, you know, as soon as they open back up, people will leery to go there. I'm the first guy to go there, because there's nobody going to be more ready for us than those guys, right? So I like to think that we've learned something here, and we can put some things in process and in place. We screwed up here, we found that out with our violation, we need to be better, let's do that. So I don't wanna just interrogate him, I wanna use it as an opportunity for us to learn and see what he has of value. He's been the city administrator for a number of years. And like I said, he just went through this process, let's try to get some takeaways, but I also wanna know, you know, what do you know, when did you know it? And those other questions I asked that, you know, related to his knowledge and we'll go from there.
So far, if you go with these focuses, we've got 10 focuses and about 24 questions. And that's about all I think we can do in an hour. But we can change the focuses if you want, if those aren't the right things to focus on.
You're gonna have to have a myriad of questions, because some of them are just not gonna get answered. Some of them are just going to answer
Oh, yeah.
or talk around. So you're gonna have to be ready to pivot and have another one available to go, because it's gonna be a quick yes or no. I'm not sure about that, whatever.
Or it could be rambling.
There's gonna be a rush off, so you're gonna have to, and again, it's just, you know, he's already interviewing for another position, he doesn't wanna say anything, it could be misconstrued or get
Do we have
himself in
any
trouble.
updates on the status of that?
So he's not gonna give you a whole lot of information. We're not gonna open up cell phone for liability and those things.
I wouldn't ask about,
Nope.
you know, anything with Delaware's job application or anything like that. I'd stay away from that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
Yeah, we're here to find out what happened and recommendations.
So here,
Yeah, stay local.
you talked about, and I'll just really real brief, about off-duty work and stuff. I put one of them together, because we had individuals who worked for volunteer departments as well,
Okay.
100 days off. There was the understanding in their signatures about workman's comp, things like that, you know. And what happens if they get hurt there versus here, work, you know, and they have to be off, but they gonna get charged for what, you know, and things like that. There was an hourly rate for when we did it for private individuals.
Yes,
Did a lot of stuff for Paul Sherry at the time, when he was all out here.
sure.
And then that was probably right, and then we also had a rate for each vehicle, whichever one they wanted to use for safety reasons. It was all spelled out, and then I signed and showed them what the bill would be, and if they agreed to it, that was fine, if not, they didn't have to. But it went through all the department here, we didn't go through the city manager at the time or anything.
So we've done that in the past.
So it was, oh yeah, many times,
That's what I
it was
figured.
all internal.
But yeah, that's my recommendation, one of the recommendations.
And he may just tell you that if you ask him that, that's, it's internal, they put it together, they determine pricing, things of that nature.
So what exactly are we asking?
Uh,
What's the policy for off-duty
For
work?
off-duty firefighters that have second job.
And it's probably changed, obviously, updated,
Sure,
things like
sure.
that. And they do have a policy too on receiving any gifts, that's a violation of the ethics code in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, that was my other question.
I've
I
got
would
that
not-
down here.
Personally, I would not get caught receiving $1 from somebody.
I was thinking about a dinner.
Well, I mean, no, I wouldn't even do
Any
that.
gratuity
Mm-mm.
of any type. What's the policy for that?
Free lunch.
So
Are you saying, are we asking?
That's just, you guys know my.
And you could ask do they have a policy? And if he says yes, can we see?
Does the
And
city
policy
have
If the city has a policy, the whole,
for all city
For what?
employees?
policy for what?
for receiving gifts.
Receiving gifts,
Money, goods, whatever.
cars.
I would like to know if he has the bill of lading for the stuff that's shipped in for burning. Or anything that's showed up on the truck out there, does he have those BOs? If he says no, okay, who can you direct us to in the city that has those? And if they say nobody, then we've learned that's a problem.
What if it's between the private company and the private trucking?
And it could be Jim, that's what we
And
might
that's the
find
problem
out.
too, because they ain't gonna give you nothing.
Right.
Yeah, and if you don't have them, shame on us.
Yeah,
It's burning in our city.
they should have had a copy
Absolutely
or
know what
something
they-
maybe, but,
Yeah,
if the truck pulls out and they give it to the private company and they sign everything,
well,
there's no way
It's
you
not
can.
coming back to the city.
You're not gonna
so
get it.
that's another recommendation.
But that's an asking to ask.
Yeah, that's another recommendation
Future.
we're gonna make, is we need to have BOLs for anything that shows up there. City needs to know what it is and then properly placard, which is why city needs to be there.
I thought I read in one of the documents that ESRG was gonna pay to ship off batteries that had been burned.
Yes,
Maybe that's,
no,
But that's when they were shut down, I think. Not ongoing, I think that's when it was shutting down.
there was some
You
waste
still
that
have to remove the batteries they burned the whole time.
right.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, I think was
I just
at
wondered,
the end.
Yeah, they removed the
I was
waste,
there.
the water runoff and the waste, they removed that as well. And I remember the city had to catch up with them. Hey, do you have that information from that freight carrier? Again, you should never rely on the people doing the burn to give us the information. God only knows what they're giving us and how accurate it is. So we need to have those controls.
I think I saw that, I think the company that took away or emptied out the, what do you call it, the well or,
You have the waste to that.
Basin.
Yeah, they did provide that documentation, but we had some asking for it.
Over was the company, and we've done stuff with them out here, so I'm familiar with the it's kind of irrelevant.
She wants to contribute.
I'd love to contribute. So in regards to, at the end, when they were removing things, they loaded the debris and things straight up from a pallet, straight into a Penske truck. We called Penske because we saw on their website they don't allow hazardous materials to be in their vehicles. We were concerned because grandma could go get it, have a mattress put in it, bring mattress in home and not even know. Penske, they did nothing. But we've got communications, I've got emails, and Jeff Grimes contacted them, did you contact them too? Diane did, I know myself. I have photos and videos of them loading this straight into these vehicles, these Penskes. They did nothing to it,
Right.
they just put it right in there. Didn't wrap it, there's no hazards, there's no markings, and from what I was told, they were supposed to have all that, but I don't know.
The problem I think that what we're getting to is ESRG may have handled the shipping.
Yeah.
And Jim's right, we're not gonna get anything.
You won't get anything out of it, nobody,
No,
right?
and that's fine, if we don't, we don't, but I think that's a program and policy we need to incorporate going forward. Everything that moves in and out of there, we need to have information, documentation up.
Get as much as we can.
There's
Why is
liability
anything
for us
going
to
in and
do.
out?
What about
Just if anything,
trail
maybe-
cam? I think the citizens would love to monitor that place.
You just mean like that.
Documentation,
Yeah.
anything on the truck going in or out of there
Yeah.
needs to be documented.
We get to monitor
So we
the
can ask about
cameras
that.
in the zoo, then Lauren can
I'm kinda
monitor
curious
the
to know, like,
where the bike was.
when complaints started getting
Trail
coming
watching.
in, like phone calls started getting made.
And that's another question.
Is, you know, I'm sure Paul must have been aware of it. I would think, but maybe not.
So I saw some emails, like the first communication, one of the first things he did is he started reaching out to others,
Okay.
department heads, how do we respond?
Okay.
You know, so he started asking, and then when Fox 45, the reporter asked for an update, he contacted some PR agency for a response, so, but I wanna know if he's on the 911 commission that somebody brought up last week, are you on that commission?
I've got that question.
Usually the
That's
city
the question.
manager and like the safety director in Troy,
Okay.
they are.
And then I wanna know if he is aware of any written or verbal directive given to the operators on what to say if somebody called about the burn, where they told it's fire training. Was there instruction to say something just in specific terms or general
It
terms?
actually come from their supervisor down there. We don't know that.
We'll start with him and see if he says yes or no, or acknowledges it or doesn't, so you can learn as much about what he tells you and by what he doesn't tell you. Give you some ideas of where you should maybe start to look a little deeper. That's my thought.
How many more questions would you have that we need to put in here? Do you have them on a list or just in your head?
I have a partial list. I was gonna shoot for like 25, 30 questions. But if we've got 300,
Gee.
But probably some of yours are gonna be the same as these.
yeah. So I'll finish those up in the next day or two and get those sent out.
Would you be able to send them to some of them, yes or no ones prior in an email, just to kind of?
Well, see, I wondered about that too, like, you know, would it hurt to email him? And I'm not saying, send him
I
300
think
questions.
afterwards.
I wouldn't,
Would he respond to an email?
I think I would go in there
No.
just with your, you know, and not beforehand give him anything. I would do that for anybody.
You would give them
No,
beforehand or you would not?
No, would not.
I agree with you.
Whoever I would sit down with to interview, you know, I don't want them to,
Have the questions ahead.
yeah, already addressed.
Right.
I was thinking after the interview, we could ask,
I figured that's what you were saying.
would you be willing
Oh,
to,
I got you.
for us to submit more
Like
questions
a couple weeks
in a written
after,
way?
if we had a question come up.
And then also if he would be willing that after we type up our notes, right after the meeting, could he take a look at them, make any corrections he wants, and then sign off that they're true?
I bet he won't.
You can
I
ask.
bet he was
You
right.
can ask,
Well,
but
I can do the same.
I would say no.
If he doesn't, what kind of
I'm gonna-
city manager?
I'm
Then we
gonna-
can say,
I'm gonna be honest, I mean, I know I've kind of vented to these guys somewhat, but, you know, it's one thing, you know, Brant Polschneider, he's not a city employee anymore, right? There's some people that have moved on, but, you know, Paul still works for the city, and it bothers me even more now, to be honest, that I'm finding out tonight that, oh, Frank's gonna be
I know,
with us in the meeting. Like defending, that tells me
just found
that,
it out.
that tells me that Frank is training, prepping him.
He'll speak on his behalf, as a city manager.
I personally don't think we will get anything meaningful out of this, I could be wrong.
I personally don't either.
You know, I almost wish like Tom or, you know, maybe I could talk to Frank DeBross, you know. The perfect situation would be able to, you know, kind of like we talk to you guys in front of everyone here.
He's not gonna agree
He
with
won't
that.
do that, so it's gotta be just two of us. He won't let us record it,
No,
and I don't know if,
Wonder if
you know, I wish like the commissioner or someone could talk to him and say, it'd be great if we could record him, otherwise Nancy and I are gonna be in there like, okay, so this.
Did you have a commissioner in the room? Or that?
You gotta be careful how many people you.
Yeah, I think,
I was not on our
let's keep it.
committee, we're a quorum, we can only have two. But he doesn't want stenographers, he doesn't want anything
No,
else,
doesn't
we
want
have a commissioner in the room.
I think it's still worth doing.
With him.
It might still
You
be
can,
worth
you
doing.
can read hesitation in answering, body language.
I would, and the same thing, what do you do if you?
I have a question.
I understand, right?
If he's still employed by the city and he's our city manager, why is he being, can he form this group? Why is he being so uncooperative and not trying to help find the answer here?
She's smart.
I mean, I'm flabbergasted. And
I'm
and
surprised he said
for him to not
yes.
stand up
There's first.
and
At least he's agreed
own
to
up
be in
to
the
it
meeting.
and answer the question.
Well, it's in reverse, basically.
I
This committee should be
can't-
saying what's going to happen and who's going to be there versus him
Well,
saying who's going to be there.
I don't care who's gonna be there,
There were
but if
times,
they can't record him, he has
It's gonna be.
organize this committee to find out what happened. And he won't even cooperate.
Well, it was the city commission that formed the committee,
That has
but you
never
would
happened as
think
long as
that
I've lived in the city,
city
Have city
employees
manager
would be cooperative.
to act like
But,
this.
but then you gotta think.
I hope he's
That's
listening.
Frank sitting in there.
he is,
He is,
What if
don't
you
worry.
talk to him
he
about
is,
city
we don't like
say,
you.
My attorney's gonna be there, and you're not gonna record either. Not Frank, but another attorney.
Bye-bye.
Delaware's not gonna take you.
Because if it's gonna be him,
Unless Dalen hooks you up.
Considered to be Paul's attorney.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
for city business.
Yeah, Frank's job is to protect him.
I want him out of here. I want him out of here.
Not during this though.
Well, I mean, I think, we just gotta go in there and give it our best shot.
Yeah.
And it's gotta go in our report, unresponsive, uncooperative, because when the whole city, people who haven't been coming to these meetings, when they read it, when they see it, they know that we tried to ask him questions, and we got this or that or nothing. But we've gotta have that on record.
There were times at commission meetings where Diane Park went up and spoke, and myself, and Jeff Grimes, and I don't know if they said this to Debbie too, but we had questions, and they said, please email your questions. And it was to Paul Schneider. And so I don't know about you, but I know I typed up, I can only speak for myself, I typed up questions, emailed them over. I was told that he was not the proper authority to answer my questions.
Wow.
And so they were forwarded on. So why tell us publicly in a meeting, if you have questions, contact this person. Then when we do it, you won't answer the questions, so you forward them on. So they forwarded my questions to Paul Schneider, to Oberdorfer. And almost every answer he gives me is, predates my employment, or I don't know.
Unequivocally incorrect, inaccurate.
So I'll send you those, I don't think you have them.
I wonder if this means then that Frank is gonna be in on every interview with city employees.
Probably not.
He's the only one, right? Do we have other city employees who?
Well,
Schneider.
But he's retired.
There might,
Oh, that's true.
isn't there Amy, what's her name?
Walker?
Havner.
No,
She's not.
she quit and she went up to, I think she's in Bluffton now.
I have her personnel file.
Yeah.
Who's in Bluffton?
I think Bluffton, Belfast,
Works in the city, that's
she
it.
left the
Amy
county.
Daver?
Tim
She's
Rice.
no dot, she's an engineer.
But I thought somebody said she
So
was.
Frank will be in if we interview him.
I don't know,
Or one could be.
Really?
I don't know, I didn't look it up or nothing, but I knew she went to ODOT.
Yeah.
And then, somebody said she went.
Maybe we should interview Frank.
Darn,
I think you
should
should.
have heard that.
I'm serious.
Frank is not a
One
city
thing, one way or not the
employee,
other.
is what he told me.
My fear is just that, now I'm wondering if Frank will do most of the talking at this interview. Or what could happen is we could ask a question and Frank could say, Paul, don't answer that.
Well, that'd be
Make note of
interesting.
that, that'll be very telling.
That will be in our
That's
report.
right.
I like
Part of the
that.
interview process.
If we don't get cooperative answers, that will be in our report, like Joe said.
Yeah.
David,
I think if
that's
he
one
doesn't
thing I
like
was trying to
it,
say
it's
to the
for
integrity of your group,
He does a job.
for your protection, yeah, you just gotta say,
Because
he was incooperative.
at the end of the day, we're gonna put this report out. And I feel like the public, is waiting on this report with bated breath, and it's gonna be a big deal when it comes out. And the public is the biggest judge of all. And if our report comes out and we don't do a good job, it's gonna be like, wow, that was a waste of time. And we will know it, because the people will tell us that.
Can we chime in with a few questions?
Yeah.
That you guys might be able to elaborate on. The first one is, you might have come across the paperwork when it said, they were using taxpayer dollars to fund, the operations out of the plant. So for instance, the utilities.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what type of utilities. I don't know if it was internet. I know it probably spoke to electricity.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was water, but I wanna know if you guys think that's ethical. For one, I would say not, but that's just my opinion. I would say that is unethical territory. That's engaging in unethical territory if you use taxpayer dollars to fund a private company.
I'd have to look at the MOU and see if that was in the MOU that they said you would provide
It was
some
not.
of those things. So if it's not, then it needed to be, and you're right, then why are we spending our money for their stuff and our people and our
I
personnel?
think we've discussed this over and over and
Yeah.
over with all the
Okay.
companies in town. Who else got this benefit? Who else got, or who got
And they were-
slighted, cheated
yeah.
because the city did not have them free legal advice and free utilities and
Make a
What
sign,
was the
they were
reason?
trying to make a sign for them too, I think, that was one thing, that came out in the commission meetings.
keep them
Should
engaged.
go pick this.
Why?
So I would encourage you guys to
Got that one in
go
here.
back and watch every single commission meeting from prior to, I think it was September 27th of last year, from just prior to that, all the way up until now.
Public comment, that's like.
Public comments, the whole commission meeting, listen to like resolutions that were passed, the whole nine. So another question I have is, in some of the documentation, there was the word horse trading. And I had, it was beyond me that, the word horse trading is in documentation that has anything to do with battery burning or
options.
or ESRG operations. So, what I am curious to know, maybe you guys can write this down, what is horse trading? Like, what are the semantics behind the word horse trading? I don't know if that's a financial term, or if it's, some type of code word. It's something that I believe you guys should look into a little bit. And why this terminology is included in correspondence between ESRG and the city. If it was between ESRG and the city.
It's typically a shrewd exchange, so what,
Was that in an email?
oh,
It was in
we've
documentation.
seen.
Horse auctions,
Yeah.
$25,000 and
But where
senators.
would I find that communication?
I can,
I believe you, I just
no,
want to
I
see
can
it.
find it, not right this minute.
No, okay.
And that was something to
So-
bring up later.
There's another-
Multiple times that was spoken of horse trading.
Yeah, they were talking about horse trading, but the horse auctions were even more interesting.
Okay, so there's another issue where we gotta consider, or where you have to consider, is it unethical to pre-type? I know companies
The
often
grants.
write their own grants, there's nothing unethical about that. But I'm referring to pre-typing and preparing your own letters of support to attain a grant from a nonprofit via, I would say, collusion with a public entity, which is the Piqua Fire Department, that admittedly on camera, the fire chief stated Piqua PD was never on site during the operations of the battery burning, nor participatory in them. You see, the grant was sought by ESRG through a nonprofit. They could not otherwise attain this grant without the support of our city fire department, our city letterhead, and our chief's signature.
We do have documents on
Okay.
that.
So if our fire department was never on site, never participated in any of these burns, how can they write letters of support for operations that they've never been a part of or they've never seen? So how can you support something like that? So what they did, from what I could tell from the documents I've seen, is they took Nick Warner's pre-typed documents. He submitted them to the fire department, and the fire chief put them on Piqua Fire Department letterhead and signed for it. And then those documents were in turn submitted to receive a nonprofit grant for their operations. Okay? Now,
Unheard of.
I wanna know if that is unethical, or is that considered money laundering, or is that borderline money laundering, or fraud, or
Jim, you had a question.
No, I read stuff, what was the grant for the,
FEMA.
One was FEMA.
it was from a
Yeah, but-
nonprofit. You can go into the documents and reread
the
that.
FEMA gave them the money through BGSU for the tower, correct?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is something else.
This is
I think
Okay.
there's documentation that you have.
No, I mean, I read two of them, but I'm
ESRG.
trying to figure out which one.
It was for the ESRG operation.
I have the grants at home that I can bring next time. Another thing is, when they took that money for the grants, they're buying from a company, MES, through Dale and Sarton.
Yeah, I just thought of the same thing. That's
So they're not-
never mind.
They're not asking other companies how much they can buy this product for. They're going right to the person that's burning out there and giving him the money.
Do we-
So Rescue Memphis Dale and Sarton is selling that fire.
We're gonna have to get through our agenda.
Okay, so another topic that I want you guys to
One
write down
last one.
and look into is on some of the documentation, Nick Warner was engaging what I would refer to as nepotism, where he was gonna draw upon his sister's status, I would say, and influence to support his operations. So that is utilizing nepotism to further your operations. So if you could write that down.
But what are the breadcrumbs back to Piqua on that? How does that relate to Piqua?
Well, they are operating in Piqua, in the city of Piqua. So if they're conducting operations within the city of Piqua, and they're conducting in,
It was pulled from the state, from DeWine's office, because she worked for Mike DeWine. So what Nick was saying is, I think we can get some momentum here. My sister works in the office of DeWine.
Was that related to him getting the grant?
I still don't get the connection. He might be doing bad things in other areas of his life, but what does that have to do with Piqua?
he's operating in Piqua.
It had something, it had everything to do with ESRG and Piqua. I might,
I'm just not
hey
following.
girls over there, hey,
I-
Alicia, real quick, when Nick Warner is speaking of Brittany Warner,
He's my sister in Ohio, Jobs.
right, was it Jobs Ohio?
Jobs Ohio.
Jobs Ohio.
Yeah,
No,
so,
she
but it had
worked
something to do
for,
with the DeWine.
she worked for DeWine and then she
Yeah.
works for a lobbyist group, CRJ Group.
And but what did that have to do?
She's the president.
Right,
But what's it
so
got
he
to
was
do
trying to
with
get power from her to do what here in Piqua, cause I can't remember that.
To talk to Jobs Ohio, because she was working for DeWine, plus they're a lobbyist group.
For influence is what it was.
Yeah, I don't wanna go in too much into it.
To bolster his
I
operation.
think-
understand that.
I think we'd be happy to discuss that
But
without,
yeah, I don't wanna say too much.
who the hell
My
we
thing-
don't know as
My
much.
thing would be is that between them
Yeah.
two, you know.
I've got all the
he's trying to
documents.
We've all the
give
documents.
him things
All of
as a
them.
private entity, and
No, you,
he didn't involve the city. I mean, that's happened in other places, and people get caught, let me tell you. But, you know, is he trying to influence her to influence somebody else to get me? To give me.
to bolster his
Yeah,
operation.
yes. But in the city at that moment may not have known anything about it.
That's a possibility.
I mean, I don't know.
It depends, because you have documentation,
Yeah,
which
and
might have,
I've read it.
which might have the cities,
Okay.
which might
You're
have
getting close
names
to
on
what
it.
you're directing at.
We're getting close.
And Brittany Warner, with her job then, her boss, the CEO, she's the president of the company. Her boss is in the House Bill 6 scandal with,
They're
you know,
household.
billions of dollars. But he's also, her boss is also on the racing committee.
Okay,
And
and
talk about horse auctions.
we wanna bring to closure, I think,
Yes, that's good.
the focus of the questions.
The one thing, okay, the one thing you have at the bottom, when you wrap it up, says, who else do you think we should hear? Because I don't know, I don't ask him that.
You know,
Where's this at, where's this at?
don't have to.
Who else do you think we should?
Well, something went wrong, and if it's not him, who does he think it is?
He won't answer.
He won't answer.
Well, that's why I said, who else should we be encouraging?
I just wanted.
But
That's okay. I just, you know, her statement.
you could just say, nobody.
We wanna feel now as far as like, you know, in the future, what maybe would he recommend?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna add future and try to
Part
make
of me
sense
doesn't
of
think he
this.
really.
That's fine.
But we can ask.
It might be the one he has the most to say, because it's safe.
So it's looking at the future and then as far as, you know, while he was city manager, when did he find out what? And just kind of his steps, how did he take steps to mediate what happened? I guess when he started hearing about it,
Yeah, that's in here.
there's just so much.
Who's behind the curtain?
So you're gonna get your questions,
I'll get my
and
questions.
we'll get together and,
We're gonna have to get together probably several times and then,
but it is next Wednesday.
yeah, we'll come up with a final set of questions.
And I trust your questions.
Share with the committee before we walk in there, but.
If you can share, don't share, I'll trust your questions. Because I'm gonna.
The biggest thing is gonna be, you know, and we talk, you know, after the interview's over, we'll go meet somewhere and we'll just do a brain dump and just document as much as we can.
He doesn't.
It'll be interesting for Frank to hear what we're asking about.
I don't think it'll matter.
No, we don't take the questions in.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and no, I mean, while we're doing the interview,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I think it'll be interesting for Frank to know where we're at, where we're at.
So, it should be based on,
Are you moving, we're ready to move on to the next
Yes,
one?
yeah.
Interviews, who else?
$100,000.
Oh, well, are we gonna have the insurance?
Yes, Brad, we talked about over the weekend, they want to get here, she's at Kids in Sports, trying to get on the Thursday night. There's one guy. I'll be there,
Okay,
So if,
give us a date.
not necessarily next Thursday.
No, not necessarily, but if you said, bring it out, I'm like, call, I send you a text, and I can get here. You know, cause I'm not
Who
getting.
was that?
Brad,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I knew you said Brad.
You know,
Yeah, that's-
either both of them or one of them. So you see what's to be here, it's just timing for him to get it together.
One more question. Does conducting these meetings within itself, not within the government's building, does that in any way invalidate the findings from a government level?
They, the city, I mean, we're a city committee, for whatever reason, we were put in this building.
Because of the,
It's an interesting thing to think about.
I know, it's just it's just a question that comes to mind.
I think it should be broken up now, hook one for corporation.
I don't think so, I think
I would.
It's probably easier to record it.
Yeah, so if you're finding here, if you're finding.
It's in his comfort zone, I think.
But we are every bit, you know, a city committee, you know, with an objective.
Okay,
I think they just didn't wanna keep. they're on support document issue.
I think at this point, you could probably move it back over there. My understanding was the original reason that they did it here was so that everybody could show up, but that's not a problem anymore, so you could probably move them back over to the commission chambers if you ask.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I thought
maybe
about the
we-
first meeting. I
propose-
don't object to being in
I
here.
don't mind being.
I object to having us move to a different room every time we come in.
Well, that's maybe just similar to why they were changing, the acronyms out to the land operations out there every few months. Now, I had a question about that as well. Do they change the name and the acronyms to the property? When they do that, is that called, I would say, tax avoidance or tax evasion? Which I would lean more towards utilizing the tax code to engage in tax avoidance. So they're not really doing anything illegal.
I think it's just to impress whatever audience they happen to be talking to.
I think you have great questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would be willing to.
I'm asking them right now, and I think I'm on recording, so, I'm asking you guys to write them down as I asked them. So I just wanna know, does that speak to them engaging in anything unethical?
Yeah, the changing of the guard with their company name over and over and over. I mean, ESRG rescue methods,
PPP, PIPLA, whatever, PIPLA,
There's 10
municipal,
different names.
regional,
they just kept
training facility, and then they said PIPLA alternative, regional training campus.
Pigwack Energy Research Testing Center, which is still active.
What was that?
Document request.
That's still
Anyone reach
active.
out to the previous city manager to question him at all?
Not
Because
yet.
I'd really be curious to
Yeah.
hear from him.
Will he talk to us? My guess is probably not, but.
We've had community people give not interviews, but more like presentations. He's the first actual interview that we've done.
Paul, you're the first one.
Why do we still have Pigwack Energy Storage Research and Testing Center? It's still active. We're out there as a small generator. And then we were supposed to tear down that building. When is that building going to be turned in?
The old water plant?
I think-
The chlorine room.
I think I've
They
got
said
that
if
on
it
here.
wasn't gonna be used anymore, we even asked in a city commission meeting.
Well, they
And
need
they
to,
said it was gonna be torn down, but
set up a proper abatement, firm to come in, and that is kind of falls in line with, dealing with asbestos and stuff in that matter. There's a special firm that would need to come in and encapsulate the contamination and remove it in a proper manner.
it's so contaminated right now.
People can't just go out there with a,
right,
Bulldozer.
but we haven't heard any
Right.
updates on that, and I don't want it to be forgotten. But I didn't want,
Right.
why do we still have a small incubator
well,
generator out there on the federal EPA website that no one knew about, they said.
we're
Well,
backloading our taxpayer dollars so that they can eventually get that done. So that they can eventually get the firm to properly do that.
Goes back to my question, organizational chart, who the hell's in charge of that place out there? Who's the guy, gal? Hey man, what's going on here? I mean, was Brent doing everything? I don't know if it was the new chief or who, but I can't answer that question. I've looked through all these damn documents. I don't know who's who out there. It's confusing as hell.
I think those are great points, and I think, do we wanna talk about document requests?
I thought you had some, or?
I was gonna have to bring them, I'm almost done with them. My plan is,
That is Tom.
are you gonna do city document?
No, he's doing city.
So I'll bring them, or I'll shoot them off to you,
Perfect.
And then somehow we're gonna work out a system of a list somewhere, so we know who's asking what.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, we can definitely work that out.
Now, I just resent my document request to Bowling Green, but the guy's on vacation.
be out in the city. But when it comes to interviews, I think we really, my personal opinion is let's see how this goes with Paul first before we start setting anything else up, because if it's an unmitigated train wreck, what the hell are we doing? So, you know, whose time are you wasting your valuable time just to have people look at you and say, I don't really recall what happened with that.
Well, it's for the report, and
But
it's the,
It's for the report, but if it's a waste of time, then it's really a
it's still letting the community who might not know what, you know, not
I don't think
everybody's
it's a waste of time
involved.
because it would give that level, that extra layer to us. You tried.
Yeah.
You even curated amazing questions. And they are refusing to respond. That only reflects poorly on them and, in my opinion, screams guilt.
I mean, you guys are gonna know, like, if this was a waste of time, or I'm gonna not be happy when I walk out.
David's gonna keep
But, and what will happen is in the report, it will say, Paul, you know, would not let us report him, Frank was in the meeting with him. And I'm not trying to, you know, go after Paul, you know,
You
but
just
I don't
keep it
know.
factual.
What would,
I think that's all everyone wants
what
to
would
see,
make it
factual.
worth your time? What are you looking for?
Openness, transparency, and.
From the very people who did this?
Yeah.
I don't expect that.
I, you know, from like Brent and people that are no longer with the city, I wouldn't expect that. I don't think Gary Huff's gonna come back and interview us, but maybe Nick Warner will talk to us over the phone, but the city commission created this group. And if it's, you know, if they did it and they want it to feel like a 6th grade research project, then that's not what we signed up for. That's a waste of our time.
We also
I knew
have,
pretty much that's what it was gonna be.
questions concerning the
No, it shouldn't
testing.
be.
Okay, so the company that was utilized to conduct the testing was WSP. Now, EPA has a certified program that testing agencies can go through to conduct testing underneath the EPA. Now, the program is called a Voluntary Action Program, VAP, okay? Businesses and property owners have a way to investigate possible environmental contamination due to hazardous substances, clean up the property, and receive what's known as a covenant not to sue, CNS, covenant not to sue, from the state of Ohio, promising that no more cleanup is needed, okay? So, then we're utilizing them as a entity to test for contamination, and finding out that they are certified under the EPA with this covenants not to sue. We're concerned not that the testing is inaccurate or false. Using the metrics that they used, for instance, they utilized air modeling data at the Dayton International Airport, not air data from the Sydney airport or somewhere airport was closer. That kind of skews the findings.
Yeah, you're touching on a lot of stuff Jeff Lane covered with us last week and sent us a bunch of documents on.
Okay.
So you're thinking the same back he's
All
already
right.
talking to us about, which it's good to see. It's good to get back up that that's something else and something.
Yeah, and when it comes to the soil, say I have a stack of plates, okay? Every plate is white, and it's, like I said, there's 6 plates. The top plate I've eaten off of for 5 years, okay? I don't really care so much about all the plates below the top plate. So why are you doing borehole testing to go 3 feet into the ground, 4 foot into the ground, when all I'm concerned about primarily is what contamination was on the top plate? When you do that borehole testing, you're pulling up a lot of soil that had nothing to do with the contaminants. You're diluting the sample. So we have no way of conversing with this company to make sure that we as a community wanted to use and oversee that the proper metrics were being used.
I learned at a conference, from 2 different organizations that were at the same conference. They both told me and everyone else in the auditorium, when you test 4 feet down, you're trying to hide something. You don't test 4 feet down. That's what they broadcast to the entire lecture.
And I-
2 different places, and I even followed up after.
I've got some questions in here for him about toxicity.
It's not that the testing was
testing.
inaccurate, it's that the metrics of the testing were not appropriate for what was happened out there at the site.
I feel like also we don't know the chemistry to know what to test for. We did not test for things that,
Dioxins, which he said he was going to test for.
we did not test for a lot of, and that's just one thing. We need to test for what's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna
And
have to
then-
take the risk of being rude here. We gotta get through this agenda.
That's fine.
And then we've got public comments at the end.
Okay.
So we can
We'll
come back to that.
Okay.
The email portal. We've done some experimenting with that.
Okay.
You can send a message and it gets to Jerica, but you cannot attach any documents and she cannot respond back. You can take the same email address outside of the website, just put it in your browser and send a message to that, and it still does not go to Jerica. You can submit documents with it, but it only goes to the people that were copied. So this is dysfunctional. What do we do about it? Do we care about it?
Can you create your own Gmail outside of the city to use? That would just make more sense to me.
We probably.
Yeah.
Then the claim that
We
the
just want-
city hacked it and deleted stuff can't be
I
made.
don't know how we'd advertise it.
Well, we could just have the city list it on the
Like,
website.
I didn't hear that.
I
never heard that.
And I feel bad, like the city did take the time, they took the time, they made us an email address.
That does not take very long.
They took the time to make a way to
Takes you long to get into a
us.
server and type it out and click send.
It seems like it's becoming more of a hassle than like.
If you wanna get the credentials, I'll log in and get it working for you.
So do we want to come up with, work on that?
I think that's something we would have to vote on, but,
Well, it's true, Derek is not here.
well, we have
Well, we have a quorum, and then I was reading their resolution again, and it says any kind of like decisions needs all 5 of us to be present. Yeah,
Well,
it's dysfunctional,
yeah, 7 days.
it's dysfunctional anyway. All right,
We're just getting there.
well, I'm just suggesting that we each come up with some sort of focus for the next week.
Question, so regarding the email thing, so I sent over 8 emails with attachments, 7 with attachments, 6 with attachments.
Yes, thank you for that.
You're I learned, you got those,
Yes, they were forwarded on to me.
okay, just wanted to clarify, you got mine.
Yeah, just.
I don't personally feel comfortable sending them to the city, so if you guys could send, create a Gmail, that'd be great.
Maybe that's the way to go, that would simplify a lot.
Document, pick one, committee documents at Gmail,
Batteries go boom.
Batteries go boom at gmail.com. I don't think that one's been taken.
So when, next Thursday, when Derek is with us, we'll talk about that and.
Okay, for the agenda next time.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it would be helpful to have a list of all city commissioners and planning committee members from 2016 to 2024. And I was thinking maybe somebody could help me on that.
If they don't already have that information.
What is it?
I need a list of all city commissioners and planning committee members from 2016 to 2024.
That sounds like a day.
It'd be public information, it's just a matter of compiling it.
I'll tell you where you can get that very easily is, Diana Tamplin, that's the city manager's assistant.
There you go.
She will have all of that.
Tamplin,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
great.
Awesome.
It would just be nice to be able to see like, okay,
Well, I mean, she can
every
it over
board-
to you in an email, really.
Yeah, she can forward to it, and Debbie will know, it'll be told that last 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
it's all
all
on the laptop.
Get them all.
We're going back for 80 years.
Show your muscle.
We're going back 80 years.
There you go.
Go back to when the city was incorporated, and get them. I can probably tell you.
Does anybody else wanna focus on anything particular that we might be upping?
We're gonna do with David, when we get together, a lot of requests from the city, so.
Oh, okay, good.
Everything, so.
Well, I guess that's the interview we're focusing on.
Yeah.
And now we got
That should
that.
be our focus. Hopefully, next time.
And Jared is working master
Timeline.
timeline, she.
Well, I think she and I, as soon as she quits being sick, we were supposed to get together yesterday morning and she sent me an
Jim,
email saying she's not doing
are
it.
you can you include planning commission and those sorts of things?
She sent
I mean,
like a picture
like specifically the planning commission changed the verbiage to remove the
and a
word
picture.
battery and turn it to industrial training. Instead of battery testing, they changed the words battery testing.
I think she
Either one is good.
Gary Koenig,
I like
and Joe Wilson.
I mean, yeah, so maybe next time there, you know, at some point we break it all on this table and, you know,
Bring it all.
we'll do post-it notes or index cards and we should.
And I'm asking Frank for your supplies, paper and sticky notes and stuff. But, I wanted to talk to Jerica first, but now that she's shown those, I think we could just.
Right. 2023. I thought it was in.
It was so tiny. But basically, it was just the line, with dates on it.
That's a good thing. I certainly,
I do feel for that.
So I'll follow up with Jerica.
There's a
And confirm next meeting date, right?
same time.
Yeah.
Just never thought of email was a good idea.
So I think, is there anything else besides the public comments?
Here you go. What'd you get?
Attorney Ohio Attorney General.
I got the same thing. And I don't think we're gonna get any of it.
That's, these are bullet points of what you have to discuss and break in executive session. And these are deeper explanations of the.
There is matters required to be kept confidential. Well, we weren't getting into personnel items. And what if,
What did you have to?
what's the media that is here? Community values, what if they're sitting here? So we're talking about somebody we wouldn't interview, and we're getting into, are they ethical, do we believe them, are they honest?
As we increase zoning, can we use?
That's what they say.
Well, no, but, you know, like right now, we're talking about also.
Did they start it?
Versus interviewing number one.
The answer is that she doesn't believe it.
Exactly. They're gonna spin it the way they make people. And even under these executive session, there are things that completely tell you to go, give it out.
Yeah,
You have to do an interview.
So it's really good, and I don't know if we, this is a council, if you look at the executive session, maybe also one of the following reasons. Well, but I don't know because I don't know if that means
Put it in your
interviews.
The commissioners do not talk about personnel matters in the public.
No.
So why are we identifying?
They do, they certain personnel matters. But we're not dealing with personnel.
We're not the,
We're not technically.
we're not there.
Because we're not recommending.
We're not the employees.
Yeah, but we're not, I think they can legally, and the thing is, if you look at the end of each chapter, there's like 8 pages of legal court.
I mean, if we're talking about Brent Polsheimer, and Miami News is here, and then we say, well, do we even believe him? And then it's on the front page.
That's why I said, you know, interviewee number 2, we know who it is.
Yeah.
If you look at the confidentiality, then
But they know what you're talking about.
it's a real fine line.
Well, I sent Frank another email, but we'll see how he
Okay.
responds.
About executive session.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, about
Yeah, we're just talking about the executive stuff.
I could see maybe, you know, since we're talking about poll, that might fall under personnel, but my guess is,
Well, it's
to me,
confidential.
yeah, but to like personnel matters, it fall into the fact that the commission needs
What's
an
it say?
executive
It says
session to determine or hire.
Well,
Things like that. So we're not here, we're not here.
it has to be, if we say we're going in for confidential, that's what we have, those criteria have to be. So,
We may adjourn into executive session
that's what you.
to discuss matters that federal law or regulations or state statutes require the public body to keep confidential. So what are those?
That's good, there you go.
Very broad, I don't know.
It is, it's really broad, and you decide that when you go to court.
So where could we land and what could we do and how could we get there?
Well, I mean, I pointed out pretty explicitly to Frank, you know, if he wants his stuff, you know, we're talking about Dalen Zartman, Carrie Fritz, Brett Kohlschneider, if he's okay with us talking publicly with the media present, then that's
So
on him,
we'd have to,
that's on him.
because I mean, legally, if we can't go,
I'm not buying this not legal thing. We'll see what he responds.
What's not legal? What are you referring to?
there.
Having an executive session to talk about sensitive topics
Why
that,
do you have to go into executive meeting? Are you talking to you or with the city manager?
no.
no, any interview, where the person does not wanna be recorded. And we're talking about what kind of questions do we wanna ask this person? We're suspecting them of something possibly, of maybe something even illegal. And we have to do that in the public, on the front page of a newspaper.
I'm just gonna say this. I wish you guys would have hired a legal advisor, an attorney, a special, you know, to be seated with you.
And pay for it how?
Do
Well,
the
the city
thing.
would have to.
Well,
Do you think Frank's
that's
gonna,
great.
No,
It is
Frank
not
would be
different, it's up
decision.
to the commissioners,
It would
it's
be
not
commission,
different.
because they created it.
Mr. Holman brought that up last meeting, we should maybe look
And it's
at
not
it.
somebody, we don't want, you don't need an investigative attorney, you know, to really,
Just the rules and regulations,
Yeah.
tells us what we should and shouldn't
who's
do.
very knowledgeable in the public sector in terms of executive sessions, things like that.
It would be helpful. It makes me a little nervous that the city would be paying for them, so technically we're not really.
yeah, we're back to getting advice from a city paid lawyer, so what's the
Well,
difference?
Well, no.
No, they would pay the bill, we could pick somebody.
It's not associated with the city whatsoever.
No, you'd hire an independent attorney.
With city money.
But then will you have tape? Will they give you tape in these meetings? Like, will that increase like unnecessary red tape for the community?
Well, it depends on what the attorney would say, I mean, he may say that what you do in the interview is confidential and therefore it's not permissible, I mean,
I would assume any attorney, you can call and get consultation for
yeah, you
that
could get
for
for free.
free.
You could do that for free, we'd have to look somebody up, I don't know if anybody, I don't know around here.
I wouldn't do that.
And not that I'm against it, but I agree, I mean,
Personal relationships and bias.
You could actually go through UD Law School.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that would be a
Dayton
perfect,
Bar Association.
Yeah, somebody, that would, you could call on the telephone, and we could say.
the other thing is, the commission gave you guys carte blanche to do this, I mean,
That's what they say.
so,
Do we?
They say that, I mean, they also said we have subpoena power and,
wait,
I'm gonna-
did you get that stripped away from you, the subpoena power?
Well,
I don't think we have a legal right to do
it's
that.
not really a,
they told us that we have the right, but don't use it.
but it's.
I have a document at home I'm keeping track of, and it's
that's
called
true.
tight reins.
Yes or no?
And all of the obstacles that have been placed in front of us.
You knew that was gonna happen.
We could subpoena 200 people, but
Do it.
hour to get here, get them here.
Well, it sounds like we just need to get Jerica in on this conversation. It
Yeah,
sounds
wait,
pretty
just-
positive.
What if all
We're all on
200,
the same
what
page
if all
here.
200 show up?
Yeah, for
Then
a
you got
consultation.
wasted.
Yeah.
What if 5 show up out of
That might be
200? It's
doable.
still a victory.
So let's put that on the agenda for
Yeah, I mean,
next
like,
time.
you know, maybe if we had our own attorney that was really knowledgeable and experienced in, public law, then, maybe he or she would say, yeah, you guys do have subpoena power, and I can go down to the magistrate and issue a,
It's true.
I think you do it. I think you've been given this position and you have the ability to do it, and I feel like that.
But I think it would
Do that
come
for
down to the
community.
fact that if you subpoena somebody and they say, I'm not coming, it's gonna end up, we're gonna end up in court. I mean, it's just, everybody goes to court, today.
it'd be expensive.
That's what I mean, it's gonna be expensive.
We've been
It could drag out
we
months
were
and
paying
months
for
and months.
utilities, we were doing all kinds of things. What's a couple more bucks to figure out what's happening?
But a court could hold it up for a year.
That's
So
all right.
we have to go to the commission meeting and.
Yeah, that's the
And ask for, is there a venue to do this, or how do we ask the city commission?
I think you'd have to go in front
To
of,
look at
has
this.
to be
Tom, do you know?
The way that we imagined it and the way that it was described to me is if you guys would like to get an asset that costs money, bring it to the commission, present it to us, explain why you need it. We're
Bring it to the
gonna-
commission as go to a meeting or send an email.
Yeah, that, if it's a substantial amount, I would come to the commission and present it during one of your presentations, because if we're gonna be spending public money on it, the public has to have some input on it, and we can vote on it right there. If it's something like you need pencils, you can probably send an email, but again, not to the commission can't fulfill that. I went through with a few of you guys last week, but not everybody was here. If anybody wants to kind of refresh what I said, basically, I mean, I don't wanna say it again and mess it up, but I think I was pretty clear last week.
Yeah, he thought it would be in our best interest to look at that avenue, and that way we could maybe, we can't meet in executive session, but if we had an attorney, we could meet in the attorney's office and probably do some things.
Now, is that something that you were saying that you think the commission would support?
I am 1/5 of the commission.
Yeah.
I said publicly last week at the meeting that if you guys came to us with a proposal for getting your own counsel, that wasn't Ms. Patrizio, that cost money, that I would vote yes on that. So,
We'd have to have a good argument as to why we need it, we just can't go ask, we're gonna have to have, this is why.
I think,
I have
And
one.
this is how.
What is the, why?
Frank was the city law director there since the beginning of 2018.
Yeah, during this whole.
So he actually was doing contracts, documents,
Previous
So
commission as
It's a
well.
conflict of
and
interest.
previous commissioner. So
Conflict of
yes,
interest.
very much it is.
we've, as the commission, we have even, I think it was in regards to this situation, I'm trying to remember. We have had additional outside counsel that is not Mr. Patrizio, because we wanted to keep him separate from it, so we got additional legal advice from a different lawyer set. And that option's always available to us. So you guys getting it for you wouldn't be necessarily out of the realm of
Neutrality.
what has normally happened before. As for the type of lawyer, you guys are not you're not a body that has the capability to indict somebody, so you don't need a criminal lawyer, you need like a document lawyer. You need somebody you can ask some basic legal questions to, somebody who understands how to read contracts, somebody who understands how to do FOIA requests, how to do records requests.
That's
First Amendment.
extensive knowledge of the sunshine laws.
Yeah.
The only reason I think that this could be useful is just because, you know, any legal questions we have, all we have is Frank.
Yeah.
And
And
would another attorney say the exact same thing that Frank's telling us?
I believe you were, I think it was just you two, but you weren't here last week when I said it too, was Mr. Patrizio is your interface to the city for resources because he is the city's legal counsel. That doesn't mean that he's your legal advisor, he is just your conduit through which you get city resources. Now, there's been some blending or confusion of that role perhaps. That's not to say that you can't ask him for legal advice, but that's what I'm saying is he's not bound to you guys, he's bound to the city.
Right. No, I'd be interested in interviewing or talking to an attorney and explaining their situation and see what's.
Can we add that to the agenda?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we would need Jared.
Okay,
I'll approve that.
next time.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, so.
Are you guys working for the same goal, the city and this committee?
Oh, of course not.
I mean, I'm confused. You need legal counsel and they're the ones generating their committee. It makes absolutely no sense.
Well,
I mean, maybe some other committees should be formed outside the city and then you seek legal counsel to your own.
Would you, that's
I don't- I mean,
an
I don't-
interesting point, would the investigation committee like my response to that?
Yes.
So, you guys exist because the city commissioners, who represent the citizens, we wanted to know what happened. Now, we don't have, as city commissioners, we don't have a mechanism to create an independent governmental or legal entity. We can only budge you off of the city. We literally couldn't make you any more independent if we tried because we don't have the authority to do that. So that's, where you guys are running into, we'll call them roadblocks or just oddities about using city resources, it's just unavoidable. You guys are part of the city and there's nothing else that the commission could have done to create something that wasn't a part of the city. If there was some other group that formed some investigation, maybe a lawsuit, and they were independent of the city, obviously the city wouldn't have a say over what they're doing because they would be independent. But that's not what you guys are. You guys were, by the nature of your creation, are part of the city. And it's not a conspiracy, there's just no other way around that.
That makes perfect sense. I have one more question though.
Yeah.
So they created this committee and the first night I was also dumbfounded because they look at them and say, tell us what happened when they were all there. They were all,
Who was all there?
the commission,
Do you know, did you know that I'm a commissioner?
I do know your
Do
commission.
you know when I started on the
Well, I'm
commission?
not saying you, but a lot of them were there.
3 out of the 5 weren't there, 3 out of the 5 are brand new.
Well, in the planning commission, the city
I don't know
manager.
about the,
I'm just saying, you would think they would be
How's that? It's been
upfront
happening
and
for
say,
X amount of years.
I mean, I don't know.
No, you're fine.
I don't understand why they wouldn't, if they
Well,
really wanted to get to the bottom of this.
well, that's what I'm saying is this commission does wanna get to the bottom of it, but the best we can do is create a city entity. We don't have the authority to make it.
No, that makes,
If we wanted to hide it, we would have just not done it, and we were heavily pressured as the commission that this was not something that people wanted to have happen, and we decided that we were gonna vote yes anyways, well, most of us did.
but you understand where I'm coming from.
I get it.
I know you weren't
Yeah.
there. I didn't mean you. But there's enough that were there
Yeah.
that might wanna be forthcoming and speak to this group that they formed and be upfront, honest, transparent.
I guess what else?
If not, I think you all need to make sure that everyone in the city knows that you tried, they were not cooperative, because the fault needs to be on them, not you guys.
And we
You guys are doing
that's true.
everything you can, to get to the bottom of
Somebody
it,
doesn't want
but they
to-
have no help.
When you're saying more like forthcoming, you're talking about like the commission or
Yeah.
the city or what?
Anybody involved, for the city manager to come to them and say, I won't meet with you all five, if I meet with two of you, you're not gonna record me, I mean, what's that say?
So
I would do that, anything, I mean, it's
We can
an
put
open
those
book.
parameters.
It should
So
be.
let me explain with what I thought about for me, because I wanted to present what I think's happening to you guys as well. I think I would end up having to do it to two of you as well. And it's not because I'm trying to hide something, it's because I would say things that I think are speculative. I can't speculate on the record because of my position.
Yes.
Mr. Oberdorfer can also not speculate on the record because of his position. He can only say things that he absolutely knows for certain. He can't speculate about motive unless he knows for sure. And
Well, I would think he
I think
wouldn't
they
answer the question unless he
Wanna know
knew
his motive.
for facts.
well, then you guys can ask him that. I think there was a
But
kind
he's
of
got
pre.
five sitting right beside him.
I don't understand the two number, because if they're two, then they're not in a
That's
meeting.
Ohio sunshine law. We don't have any control over
If
that.
there's three, you've got a quorum,
Yeah.
and then it's
Yes.
automatically a meeting.
They don't want that.
And they don't wanna meet.
So what if
because
we
it's-
want
we-
a
we
meeting,
chose
what if
You
it's,
all agree
if it's
to
a-
roll this
yeah,
TV out right now and let you
if
talk.
it's a meeting, you have to have.
I didn't bring my binder today, but I mean, maybe.
I don't have a problem
But
with
what is-
walking out and letting people talk.
What is his
Here.
reasoning for
It's already
not
been
wanting to
publicized.
meet with more than two?
Because then it's an open
It's
meeting.
a-
So
in the
what, so
public,
announce
it
it,
doesn't mean
announce it.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, but
You
if
can
it
open
is,
meeting.
then you can all attend too.
So what, would we have to wait in the
We would be more
hallway?
than glad not to attend to have it happen.
We would be more than glad to not show up.
So you could go into executive session
I'm
and have
kidding.
No,
three or four of you.
I will.
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
actually-
you can.
I don't, not the way I read it.
So if we there should be nothing behind it, right?
Okay, let's do this. So before
If I
commissioners,
recall,
our city commissioners wanna go into executive meeting with the city
Because he
manager.
may,
All
he
of
may be
them
wanting
go
to
in
say
and you
things
do a public
if Frank
record.
weren't there.
What is the difference between
That would be
you
helpful
and
for
them?
us to know.
There is none.
Well, it depends, because they have,
Could get
you know, they have
people
to
in
say what they wanna do.
Exactly,
And,
it's not
and
hard.
there's a criteria.
Yeah, it's not hard.
We don't meet those criteria.
Well, I'll need, here, I'll tell you,
Right there.
I'll tell you what it is. Here, I'll tell you.
Says something that's
Question.
on back.
Does he have a fiduciary
He's protected
responsibility
himself and his family.
to
You
do
don't use
this
those criteria.
under his job title?
In theory, you
No,
have
no,
a fiduciary
this is
responsibility
what-
to not do it if he feels like a.
Those are the explanations of each of the criteria.
What? I'm sorry.
In theory, you have a fiduciary responsibility
you're not
not to
going-
testify if he feels like
You're
he
not
could
going
get the
off
city
of
sued
our
by
charter,
speaking
city charter.
wrongly.
So.
Give us the other
Yeah,
end.
yeah, that.
You can- yes, the other
And I
side.
don't care what that says, this is,
I like that,
this
give
is the
us
state,
the other side of it.
this is the state, whereas a home rule can have things in your charter that abide differently than
Why
that.
should you
Here's
do it
what I would
for
suggest.
the city?
You have-
Why should you do it for the citizens?
You have Frank
Maybe we
Rizzo.
add-
Here's
Tell him
what
he wants to
city
do it. I don't know what this
Or-
policy is.
What the city compensates.
Maybe we have Frank
Well, hopefully we need to
I don't do that way. It's just,
Well, don't get it wrong.
Yes.
We're
it's
It's
for the citizens. This actually is for the
But is
citizens.
it confidential?
It is.
Some things like.
Let me, if you wanna ask me,
I know, no, it's outside.
have them ask me what power we would have to tell them.
Well, there are stipulations, other than if it's in the charter, they're not.
I just thought it had a duty.
Yeah.
Go by charter.
So, that
He doesn't have an oath to uphold?
He may,
I make a motion, we
Be
adjourn.
transparent, represent us, you know.
I really thought this
We're-
was to get to the
essentially
bottom
he's
and
taking
answer
us
the
to
citizens.
Or maybe
of
it
things.
is.
So that's the reason I'm laughing, because you would think
Second?
he would have a duty
Okay.
to do that.
Yeah, we just adjourned, but.
But